It was a bad high. I felt like people were talking to me. I was breathing like heavy. I felt the blood rushing through every piece of my veins. I thought I was seeing things. And mind you, I got the money because I needed to go get my car out of the impound, and we still needed to do that. And I still needed to pick up my daughter, my oldest daughter, from like her mom's house. And I'm high as shit. Like, there's no way. I'm thinking, like, how am I gonna get this done?
Yeah, your dabs last a while too.
It was a really long time.
What's up, you guys, and welcome to another episode of TODO CHIDO. I'm your host, Jalissa, and of course, I am here with the boys, Steve and Brandon. Say what's up, y'all.
What's up?
And of course, today we have a special guest. We have Danny from CED Connects.
I just realized you changed your name.
Yeah. I'm back to the
Your
original.
tradition, your mother named you.
Yeah.
Got you.
My birth name.
Yeah.
So how you been?
Yeah. How you been, Danny?
Been good. Been busy.
We haven't seen you in like...
It's been over a year, I think.
Yeah. Tell the people what you do. What business do you run?
What you been up to?
What I've been up to, yeah.
If you guys haven't noticed.
Yeah, so I'm in the cannabis business. I'm in cannabis industry. And I've been in this industry for a long time.
How long?
Shit. Let's see.
You know what I wanted to ask you?
99?
Really?
Around there, yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's when I would sell a few packs here and there back in the day. And
all legal?
No, well, not back then. Not back then. I was in high school back then. And then I really got, like, into it with my friends after, like, in college and stuff. That's how we would, like, just buy some packs, sell them through to to our friends. And that was the money we used to, like, go to the bars and go to, like, the clubs and stuff back then. This was, like, early 2000s at this point. Like, maybe, like, towards the end of 2000, like, maybe 5 or 6.
Mm-hmm. Does it ever like trip you out, like thinking about like smoking weed then compared to smoking weed now?
Oh yeah, it's different. Like the whole thing is different.
Yeah.
From how it's even produced to just everything is completely different. Shit, it just trips me out just saying 2005, right? Like this fucking 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Like even that part just trips me out. I'm like, fuck. Even right now, I'm just saying like, were y'all even born yet?
Yeah, I mean, I was like a little baby probably.
I was born in 2000. So.
2000?
Yeah.
See what I mean?
You started in 99. That's crazy.
That's what I mean. Yeah, well, yeah, because I was in high school back. I graduated in 2003 from high school. So,
I mean, my bad.
No, I get it. I'm telling you, it trips me out too all the fucking time.
That's fucking
but yeah, I did that, and then after a while, I stopped. Got into like working, trying to find like the traditional job, right? And working at like elementary schools and working at middle schools and going through the educational route and things. And then I got right back into cannabis through food. Yeah, I got in through food. A friend of mine, she's a chef, cannabis chef, who focuses on like fine dining and cuisine. And so we would go out and like do private dinners, and I was a server for her, and we would go out and serve her clients and educate the clients on the meals that they're gonna have, and they're always low dosage meals. Shout out to you, Chef Andrea. And from there, like this was like early 2015. Like 2015 when this was going on. And the talks of legalization were starting to happen around that time. And so from that, more brands were like obviously popping up. Like there were already, dispensaries available, like the medical cards and all of that, like pre-ICOs. And so brands were starting to be developed around that time. And so we were grabbing some of the flour from up-and-coming brands for the chef to be able to use to infuse her meals. And one of those brands was was Lowell Herb Company. They had the Bull on there. And they were like big on the pre-rolls. And so from that, like, we were using their flower, and so we were obviously throwing out their name. Chef was, at the time, like, we were doing dinners for, like, Chelsea Handler. We were doing dinners for, like, Wiz Khalifa, Nori, like, big celebrities.
Yeah.
And so then that name brand started also, you know, getting known, along with all of their efforts that they were also working on themselves, right? And as they got bigger, they started to like hire more folks. And so then I got in that business with them, and I came in to their company as a delivery driver under their distribution platform. And we were doing that. And so I started like learning the whole delivery side of things into different shops. Yeah. And at the time, I was gonna have a baby. I was gonna have my second baby. And so I'm hustling. Like, I'm like, I need the hours, I need the money. And I'm like, what? I'm already like past my 30s at this point. And a lot of people coming into this industry are like a lot younger, right? They think weed culture. They think, oh, we're gonna just be smoking joints all day, and we're gonna be doing this while we're at the job. When that's clearly not. That's really not like the truth or reality. But because of that, like, no one was really like giving that drive, right, to like work. So I just took that opportunity to like learn more, and I started putting myself in different places as things came up. Because when we first came in there, like, we maybe had like a couple hundred items. There was, at the time we moved into this warehouse, there was maybe 10 people in the warehouse at the time when I first started with them. 10 people in the warehouse, and we're getting orders, we're building them, kind of like an Amazon type of feel, right? Orders are coming in, we're building them, and then we'll go out and deliver them to different shops. And because we were so small, like, when we came in after our drive, like, we had a pile of orders that were submitted by the sales team throughout the day, and we'll start ordering them. And so just kind of putting myself in situations, and like, people would get fired here and there, big turnover rates. And so with that, I just started learning more and more of like inventory management. And then I started learning compliance, of testing, labeling, of all these products that needed to be done before it got pushed out to the dispensaries. And then ultimately I started then leading the distribution team. And from the time that I started, within a year or so, everything blew up. Like, the company blew up. We had like from 10 people in the warehouse to 150. And then COVID happened, and the company boomed even more. And then we had 300 people in the company and in this warehouse. And so we're like ramping orders. We're now pushing like 150 orders a day, and creating systems, creating SOPs, creating all these different like things to run an efficient distribution company. And then manufacturing as well, because we were also in-house doing the pre-rolls. And so there was a team on the other side making pre-rolls. And even that part is crazy, because like, that room was filled with a bunch of like little doñas and like little, it's people that you would never imagine are in the building rolling pre-rolls, right? And so I manage, and so a lot of them speak Spanish. And in this, in the industry, like, at least my higher ups were all white at the time, so there was obviously a language barrier. So there was another opportunity for me to fill in and to be able to like speak to them, right? And be able to like give whatever messaging we needed to give to produce certain things. So that led me to another opportunity to like have management on like the manufacturing side of things and learning how to schedule products, learning like what an efficient like manufacturing like scale looks like. So all of that happened, and then the company was sold. The IP of Lowell was sold to another like larger distributor in NorCal. From that, the building itself was empty, and but there was still licenses available, like still attached to the building. Because I knew so much, and I was a part of the day to day, they fired everyone but me, and I moved up to like, I didn't move, but like they sent me to Salinas to go help these fools out and like kind of get them like brain drain. They brain drained me pretty much. Like they needed all my knowledge. They needed all the information so that they can continue. And then that's when I learned like different operations and how other companies work and how licenses actually work. Because we were self-manufacturing and self-distributing as a brand. And when I went to that spot in Salinas, I saw that they had the same licenses, but they had multiple brands there that they were distributing for. And I was like, holy shit, we could have done that, and like it opened up something else for me, right?
Yeah.
But it also taught me like these fools had 10 people doing one role that I had. And so, it put a lot of things into perspective for me, like how saturated the company is, like how much people are just throwing away money, how they're not like operating properly as a business, right? And that'll, this is now 2020. This is 2020, end of 2020, 2020, early 2021. Which, now thinking back, like if you're really in this industry, or at least doing some deep diving into it or want to even get into it, you'll see a lot of these big companies starting to fail. And, that goes back to that, like companies blew up during 2020.
Because you mentioned earlier that there was like also kids, right, who thought like, they enter the business, it's going to be all weed. Do you think there's like a lot of unprofessionalism like in the weed
Absolutely.
industry? Yeah.
There's a lot of unprofessionalism, but it's also like a new industry, right? Like where, a lot of people say like we're building this plane while it's on flight, because it's new, right? Like not everyone knows how to like operate certain things, or a lot of people are coming from like the traditional markets and into the legal side of things, and maybe like you learn through trial and error how to scale your business, or how to scale properly, or there's other like little nuances that you need to like. You can't just tell your homie like shut the fuck up right while you're working in a business in a business model or in a business meeting, right? Because there's other people in there now that can report you, or there's those little things as well.
Do people get high at like the while they're on work?
I'm sure there are, right? And they take their breaks, do whatever there is, and some people are for it, some people are against it.
What do you think? Do you think it affects your work rate when you get high?
I think it's dependent on the person. Like every person has a different reaction to how they medicate, right?
Yeah.
But some people slow down, and if they slow down, then that obviously affects production.
Yeah.
Right? And so if you're trying to run a sustainable and efficient business, you want to keep consistent flow.
Yeah. You want to be sober on the job, right?
At least.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
Or at least, hope that the people that are medicating know their limits and know what, and do that, right? So it's one of those, like, you got to have a business mindset to, like, obviously keep production going, keep production running, continue to keep making money, but also understand the culture and, like, people want to, smoke, get high, they want to medicate, whatever, for whatever reason, right? And so with that, like, some people don't maybe not know how to say no or how to even distinguish the two.
Yeah.
And so we saw that a lot.
What do you think? Because people make a lot of comparisons with weed and like drinking, right? Like beer or alcohol. So like, if you wouldn't drink on the job, do you think it's fair to say that you shouldn't smoke on the job either?
Right.
Yeah.
I would say that, like, as management,
Yeah.
yeah. And I said, and in fact, I would say that,
Mm-hmm.
and I did say that all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you guys wouldn't fucking drink here. Like, why would you smoke here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I would tell my employees that all the time.
Because I figure, I mean, there's functioning alcoholics too, right? The same way there's functioning like weed smokers, you know.
Sure.
I'm sure there's a lot of people who can like work on it, but it's just a matter of like professionalism, I assume, right? Of,
Right, and that's what it goes back to, that part where like you just kind of hope and trust that like your employees know how to conduct themselves, or at least know their limits, or know how they, not everyone knows that, right? Some people need it to focus. Some people may need it to like calm themselves down, or like, eliminate all the voices that they're hearing in their heads to like be able to function appropriately, right? And for those folks, like, cool, if you need it, take it to get the job done.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, if you're working for a company, like, you're working to finish a job.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And for me, as like now that I'm like in the business and like in terms of like management, like, I didn't see it as like, oh fuck yeah, I'm like smoking and it's a weed. Like, to me, it's a unit. It's a product that we need to like produce, get tested, and push to market.
Yeah.
And so it's just a different mindset.
Would you going back to, because I don't know if you heard about Wiz Khalifa recently. He talked about how he hates that a lot of people are getting this stigma on weed again, that it makes you like lazy. Like, going back to just like weed and conducting business, do you feel like now, since you moved up in your career, you've smoked less than you have than when you were younger, or has it stayed consistent the whole time?
I will tell you that I smoke less now, but not because of business related reasons, but more because I have babies now. You know what I mean? Like, I have kids, and with the babies, like, I don't want to have that ashy, like, smoky residue or smell on me.
Yeah.
So I've just switched it to edibles. So now I take more edibles than I would smoking, right? But that notion of like lazy, like being lazy, I think it's obviously, for me, I feel it's a false one, because we're all running businesses, we're all doing a lot of different things in our community and within the business, within the industry, that like,
there's a lot of successful people who smoke weed, I feel. I mean, Seth Rogen's a big one. Wiz Khalifa himself.
Shit,
like,
just doctored. Like, I also did like delivery before too, right? Like delivery to like homes. I used to work for Ease, and when I worked for Ease, I worked for a shop out of Venice called Green Goddess, and it was for the delivery service platform. I had like a suitcase full of products, and with my app, orders would come in, and as orders come in, it'll tell me what they ordered, and then the address to their homes. 9 out of 10 times, I'm delivering to like these big ass homes in like Malibu. I'm sure they're doing something right, like productive in their life to be living in these homes, and I'm delivering products to them, whether it be edibles, whether it be smokes, whether it be flour. So I mean,
but has that idea like stayed consistent since you were young? Like, when you were young, did people see weed smokers as like?
That's always been
Yeah.
a negative stigma, absolutely, within the house, like at least within my house, right? Latino household, like it was always negative stigmas behind it, like a vago, and like stop doing that shit, like just don't do anything. You don't do anything right with your life. But you also saw my abuelita with the nug in her alcohol.
To like heal yourself, right?
To use that to like self medicate and like through aches and pains, and we all knew about it, but we didn't talk about it, and kind of just like left it alone, right? Like, you don't bring up what abuelita's doing.
Yeah, because even my family, like I remember growing up and my dad telling me about like weed, and putting it kind of on the same like league as like Coke and like a lot of
with the
hardcore
DARE
drugs.
program too, right? Like I grew up
Yeah.
on the DARE program. Like
Yeah.
I remember fucking cops would say that, or even the commercials, right? Like it'll fry your brain and
Yeah.
all that
Yeah.
stuff. You know what I mean?
That's
Like,
pretty good.
right,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
gateway drug. Like if you try that, and it's gonna want
Yeah.
you to try other things.
Mhm.
How old were you when you first smoked weed? If you feel, you don't have to say it. Yeah.
No, I want to say I tried it maybe when I was like 10 or 11.
Really?
Yeah,
That's young.
like 10 or 11.
But you didn't start doing it like
No.
consistently. You just tried it.
I just tried it.
Wait, how'd that happen though? How'd you try it when you were 10 or 11?
So I grew up in the mean streets of Lenox. No, but I grew up in Lenox, Lenox Inglewood area. If you guys aren't familiar, like near LAX.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you know, obviously it's around, right?
Mhm.
It's everywhere, and I have older cousins, and so they had some, and it was one of those just curious things. Like we wanted to see what everyone was doing, and I tried it, and I personally didn't feel anything at the time. I
Okay.
just coughed, and I was like, "Shit, this is nasty," and put it
Yeah.
away. Same thing with like a cigarette. I tried the cigarette, and it was,
Yeah.
I tried it again
Yeah.
until later on in life, where like high school again, but at that time it was more of like a money grab
Oh, really?
at the time, because I was selling, instead of like selling the
Yeah, it's
like the little licorices
Yeah.
and shit that we were selling in high school, like the little
like the chip bags and like stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you know,
I get what you're
had those
saying.
on the side.
Well, because like I imagine even then too, because I mean first time I smoked, I was in high school too, and I was scared. But I can't imagine for you in the 90s, like wasn't it even like a harsher punishment? Like,
I didn't think of it.
oh.
It wasn't even a thought. Like if like in my mind, the punishment would be like my mom's gonna find out and I'm gonna get in trouble.
Uh-huh.
There wasn't any legal, at least from what I can remember. I don't remember any legal ramifications of like, oh shit, what if the cops find out? I was more scared of my mom. Legal system.
Real.
For sure.
That's pretty real. Yeah. Do you feel like I've been wondering, because since you've been smoking for a while now, I always tell Brandon that I feel like in just my lifetime, I feel like I've seen weed become stronger. Is that accurate, or is that just like a placebo I have? Do you comparing?
Are
it to
you
when
saying
you're
that
younger?
because of the THC levels?
Yeah, a
You
little
see
bit. Yeah.
THC levels.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So yes, it has been stronger, but that's because growing methods have evolved, right? Just like with technology and all that, like obviously growing methods has evolved, and people have become more efficient with how they grow. They know what to look for, when is the right time to pull, when is the right time to start harvesting, when is the right time to like start like cutting the branches and doing all that. And it has been like that because fortunately we live in a state where it's been allowed to like be able to grow.
Mm-hmm.
So we're allowed to like kind of take some of those risks to do that, right? But in terms of like THC levels, like constantly like rising, I think that just has to do with the market, like consumers and sales and brands and shops trying to cater to consumers who don't know any better and just want to buy.
Oh, like
this-
high THC.
Yeah, they want to buy like get the best bang for their buck kind of thing. And that's been like an industry battle that's been going on with like labs for a while now.
Wait, what way? Like,
So on the legal side of things, and we kind of
Yeah.
touched on this before, right? On the legal side of things, products need to get tested prior to going
yeah.
to dispensaries, and in those labs, they test for potency. One of the tests is potencies, right? And so as these potency levels start to come up, then the idea of I'm gonna get higher attracts the buyer, therefore attracts the consumer that's coming in, and so they're willing to purchase that versus something that's of a lower THC. And that's, for me, that's the reason why I think higher THC levels are out there now, because that's what sells.
Is it like regulated? Like they have
There
to.
there is really no standard regulation on labs right now. Like there's no like standard like testing, like where they all need to follow a certain test.
Oh.
Like anyone, like you can run your own testing method. You can run your own testing method. I can run my own testing method, and they're all just as accurate as anyone else's right now. There's no
So-
standardized testing. Right
So
now.
like for some of the THC levels on the weed, are they not accurate?
Sometimes,
Yeah.
but then the other thing too is you got to think, it's a plant. It's a living thing, right? And so over time, depending on how old the flower is, and depending on when it got tested, maybe it got tested when it was fresh. Maybe it was tested when like I've done this before too, where I started learning how to like do the whole harvesting side of things throughout the industry, and I made the mistake of like testing before the plant fully cured,
Mm.
and so the plant hadn't fully cured, hadn't fully dried, hadn't fully developed itself.
Yeah.
And so when I tested it then, and I retested it, it had different levels, but the plant's constantly changing.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So there's also that variable in the
Yeah.
testing as well.
Yeah.
Well, because at least to me, it's like blowing my mind because that means like a lot of, I mean, not calling anybody, one specific company out, but like a lot of these are very inaccurate, at least in like,
Absolutely.
not to point at yours. I just mean like in general.
No,
like,
for sure. No,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
The other thing that people don't know about is like, so at least on the legal side of things, you could only purchase through licensed facilities or licensed locations, right?
Yeah.
So a brand, if I don't own a cultivation license myself, that means I need to purchase from a distributor like myself. I need to purchase from a licensed cultivation location, right? You can purchase from that same cultivation. You can purchase from that same cultivation. And we're all packaging up the same exact strain from the same exact farm. Nobody knows that. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
Wow.
so let's say a big brand
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
purchases the same flower from the same farm, same strain. No one's really gonna know.
And they
Yeah.
can charge like probably like $15 more, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So how can like as the like us purchasing and like, consuming all this, how can we like kind of know that? Or can we
As the
have, like
stoner?
Yeah, you can.
as a stoner.
No, you can.
Yeah, like I want to
Absolutely.
be a lot more conscious of like
You
where
absolutely
I buy,
can.
You know?
So if you were to go to a shop, you can ask for like COAs. COAs are the lab results. They're called COAs. Is the abbreviation for a certificate of analysis, and on that COA, it'll say where it was, what farm it was produced from, when it was harvested, and it'll give you that information.
So you can just honestly ask any shop.
Yeah, every shop needs to have it. Like anytime you make
That's
a
just
delivery,
funny because
it's gotta have it.
I can't imagine they probably get that like at all. Like there probably nobody asks for that,
Yeah.
right?
I'm sure they don't.
Right?
Man, I'm sure they don't.
And it reminds me. I feel like there's a lot of still like uneducated ignorance. No, there's just like a lot of people who don't know about weed. You know, I think
Absolutely.
the average consumer is just like, I just want to get high, pretty
Yeah.
high, so I'll buy whatever you give me, and it's weird. It's
Right. So then again, so with that, right, because of that, you'll see the prices and then you'll see the THC. And because there's that mindset of, oh, if it's higher, that means it's going to get me higher. And if I have that package listed at 30% for $10 and that package listed at 25% for $15, you're going to buy that one because it's cheaper with the higher percentage versus that one there, just simply on the test results and price point.
Yeah, I was talking to my sister about like I feel like a lot of people don't know this because there's like this like gap or like there's like this missing like media on like weed because like a lot of sites still, because it's not federally legal, still kind of block out any mentions of like stuff like this. But I feel like it's important because a state as big as California has a lot of people smoking weed. Do you get it? Do you ever get into the science side of like weed? Like, do you ever see if like what like it it might cure or like any side effects of like smoking a lot of weed? Have you ever gotten into that?
Well, to be real, like there aren't really that much studies because it's a schedule like federal like drug, like a scheduled 1 drug. Technically, they can't really run these type of tests to like even see what are like the true effects, like on a science standpoint of things, right? So, like, if you see these studies out, like there might be a few that are starting to come out now, but realistically, like we need to like focus on descheduling the plant to be able to start running these tests.
Yeah, because I've seen some interesting like I guess studies done. I don't know if you've heard of some of them. One of them said that smoking weed before the age of 25 like shrinks I think like your frontal lobe, or it doesn't shrink it, but it keeps it like stagnant to where you grow older, but that lobe doesn't fully develop. So it makes like decision making and like rational thought like a lot harder to kind of like create in your mind. Do any of those worries ever worry you? Like
No, not necessarily worry me, but I do have those conversations. Like I have kids. Like I'm talking like I brought up. Yeah. I have a 13-year-old. She's gonna be 14 next week. I have a 14-year-old now. Yeah. Gonna have a 4-year-old and a 1-year-old, and so obviously my 14-year-old is fucking curious too, yeah. Right? And so I'll have those conversations with her about like, listen, like I get it. It may be around you. Obviously, it's around you. Yeah. Right? Sure. Like, I'm in the business. So, like, there's obviously no changing it. But I tell her, like, listen, like, you're still, your body is still developing. Yeah. Like, you're still growing. You're still developing. So just take your time with it. Like, don't, if you want to, like, learn more, we can talk about it. We can find out different, like, we can look for studies like you're talking about. But there's a time and a place for you to try it. And when it's that time, like, come to me. Obviously, I got it for you. You know what I mean? But
that's what I was gonna ask you too. I was like, as somebody who started smoking when you were younger, and then you have kids too, would you want to smoke with your kids? I don't know if for the first time, but like in general.
That's a good question. I mean, sure. Yeah, why not? Like if she's of age, why not? Like, you know, folks have like drinks with their kids. Yeah, right?
Yeah, right.
You know, they'll have a drink or two with their kids. All right, cool. Let's pop in an edible. Let's here try this new smoke that we have.
How young would you let her do it?
The legal age of 21.
He's not gonna snitch right now.
Okay. He's like, I'm a responsible parent.
Yeah, the legal age of 21.
That's cool.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because I remember the first time I smoked with my sister was during the pandemic, and I had this fear. I don't know why, that it was gonna be weird because we're family. I was like, oh man, like I can't know she's gonna see this side of me, but it ended up being really cool. And then now I'm so used to it, I don't even think about it.
Yeah. No, I mean, you know, to be very transparent, like she has tried smoking. But she was upfront with me. She told me.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
How did you feel?
Yeah. How'd you react?
How did I react to that? Yeah. Obviously not surprised. Like, get it, and you know, that's what prompted that conversation of like.
Oh, I get you.
And honestly, I even told her, I was like, "You just did it real quick, huh?" She was like, "How'd you know?" And I was like, "You thought I was gonna see you, catch you, huh?" She was like, "Yeah." How'd you know? I'm like, because I did the same thing when I was your age, kid. Yeah. But you know, I don't know. For me as a parent, I feel like I'm a lenient parent in a way, just because shit's gonna happen. Like I know that. Yeah. I know things are gonna happen. Like I know she's gonna have to go through all these things. Even like with people will say like, "Oh, you have girls. Like, are you worried about boyfriends?" Or like, no, I'm not. It's gonna happen regardless. You know that. I know that. We all do. We've all been through it. Yeah. My thing is just let me talk to her and like let me put her up on game as to like what to expect, what to look out for, and from that, like, you're gonna come back to me, and it's gonna suck that I'm gonna be right. Like that's the part that gets me. Is it sucks that I know I'm right. I'm gonna be right when she gets hurt, and it's already happened. You know what I mean? So like those are the things I'm just like, fuck.
No, yeah.
Like it sucks that you're going through this heartbreak, or it sucks that you're going through whatever it is you're going through, because I was, we all have to go through it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's cool though, because I feel like I guess just having those conversations also, I guess in a way opens her to like tell you,
Oh yeah.
like she's like, okay, like this happened to me, so I'm gonna let you know.
Yeah.
And I think that's cool.
Because
That's
I'm
cool to,
not
like, have that.
Yeah, I'm not a parent or anything, but I've read that people say that having those conversations with your kid, like you're doing, is cool because even if they do like bad things, at least they tell you about it, right? So they always feel at least that security and that trust. It's different if I guess you demonize that, and then they'd be afraid and they'd do things behind your back, where then they'd be in a lot more danger because they're doing things
straight
secretly,
up.
right?
I mean, and I think I've instilled that like early on. Again, and that goes back to like just because I worked in like education as well prior to all this, and I also worked in like early education. I worked with the babies from 0 to 5. So like I had that information, I had that knowledge, and so I always made it a point with my girls, like as I'm brushing their hair, like after their bath time, like to use that opportunity to have conversations. And as a baby, obviously, like she ain't talking about shit, right? Like she's just blabbing.
Yeah.
But it's an opportunity for her to just blab, and that was our time to like blab. And then as she grew, those opportunities just continued, but with real words this time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Real emotions, and it just kept on going.
You're a girl dad, right? You only have
I have 3 girls. Yeah.
Yeah. And how's that feel? Because I'm sure everybody.
I don't know. I don't know what it's like to have a boy. Obviously, right? But,
all right, that's true. Yeah, my bad.
But I mean, I don't treat them like any. At least I don't think I treat them any differently. Like I still like we rough play. I rough play with the girls, with the babies too. We're constantly like running around. We're playing. They're playing with different things. I encourage them to do whatever it is they want. And just recently, even with my oldest, I'm a big football guy. Like, I love watching football. Big 49er fan.
Ooh.
Yeah, I know.
Your heart is crushed.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm sorry.
But like this year, my oldest, for whatever reason, was like, I like football now, Dad. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. I'm sure it's probably for like a boy or something. You know what I mean? But, she was like, I like the 49ers, Dad. I'm like, oh, cool. She says, let's watch games together now, Dad. And I was like, really? All right, cool. So we started watching games, and then and just recently, like for one of the playoff games, I took her we went to one of the games. And like for me, I was like, like, I've been waiting 13 years for this moment, and boy, girl, whatever, like it doesn't matter. Like I'm still experiencing the same moment as you would if I had a boy. Like obviously, I'm gonna want my son there with me. I got my daughter there with me, watching the games with me, and so for me, it's no different. At least I don't think it would be any different if I had a boy. But I wouldn't be able to know because I'm not trying anymore.
Yeah. Oh, really?
That's
You're
it.
done?
We're done.
Calling it quits.
I'm old, man. I'm done.
Does your girls also like like she's set on the 3, or does she push you like, no, we should have another one?
Oh, my partner?
Yeah.
Well, the 3 are within from 2 different relationships, right? Like my 13-year-old is with a previous relationship. And then my 2 are with my current partner, but with that, like, now she says she's done too. After the second one, she's like, I'm done. I'm done. But it's
before you had kids. Did you want a son? Because I hear that a lot. I hear that as a dude, like there's like an urge to want a son, but I've heard the opposite too.
Yeah, I probably did. But probably because, just because of that same thing, right? It's what I heard.
Yeah.
So
So that everybody expects kind of you, right?
Sure, yeah, like because I remember I remember thinking to myself like, oh yeah, it'd be cool if I had a little boy dressed up just like me, kind of like ideas and thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
But but once I had the girl, I'm like, all right, it's a wrap. That idea's done.
Okay, yeah.
But and honestly, even with the babies, like I didn't even think the babies were gonna come. I honestly thought like I was good with my one. And like, fucking 10 years later, it started over again.
You should just dress them up like you. Just give them a hat.
Well, no, they do. Like I still put them. Yeah, they had their little hats. I mean, they got their little Niner jerseys that they put on and stuff. So
cool.
There's those moments.
Yeah, because I remember in high school I had a teacher, and he had two girls, and he was saying that before they were born, he actually had this fear of having a son because he was like, there's like the father-son relationship of how like your sons, you have to give them like all this knowledge on how to be a man, and he was like, I never felt like I was ready to do that, so I was relieved when I had only daughters. That's why I bring it up, because I'm like, I don't know if you thought about it that deeply, but I know people do.
No, I never really thought about it that deeply, but I mean, it's like there's that idea of like, I gotta teach her to be a productive human being. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And I think honestly, even more now, like having girls, for me personally, being a man, like I feel like I have to do more for women now, like in spaces. And I say this all the time. Like I feel like I need to like do more to be able, so that my girls can be in a better situation when they're of age in whatever industry they're in. Yeah. You know what I mean? So for me, like to have to speak up or to say certain things in like to support women in whatever actions women are taking or stance they're looking to take is only going to benefit my girls when they grow up. Yeah. You know what I mean? So for me, like I feel like I have to do more for those like in those situations. With my girls in mind. Yeah. You know what I mean?
That's cool. I was like, just listening to everything you're saying, to me at least, is like thinking of like how I'm going to be as a parent, right? Like how you said that you have the talks with your daughters. Because I always thought of that, how I know that if I ever do have kids, like I want them to be comfortable enough to come up to me and tell me whatever it is that's going on, with them. Whether it's like they try smoking or like they're in like getting in relationships and like other stuff.
Yeah.
So that's cool that you have like that type of relationship with your kids.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, and obviously like there's like disappointing things, right? Like, and there's like just boneheaded things, like, and I guess maybe she's too comfortable sometimes, and I'm just like, what? What do you mean? Like there was a situation where there was a fight at school, and she may or may not have been involved. But she came up to me and she told me like her involvement, like in a proud way, right? And I was like, no,
like, are you proud of me, Dad?
Like, no, you weren't supposed to do that. Like, but I get it. Like, she told me, right? We worked it out, but it's those situations. I'm like, fuck. Like, why'd you do that? Yeah. Kind of situation. Like, now we gotta like correct it or figure out a way to like get things put together. But there's that. There's like that half to the communication.
You didn't give her at least a little like dab up of like
no, for sure. I was like,
because that's what my mom says too. My mom has said some trippy stuff. She just says she has her back no matter what. Like,
yeah, for sure. Like, obviously, I'm gonna have her back with things, but within reason. Yeah. Too.
Low key, that reminded me of the episode from George Lopez when Carmen gets into a fight, and Carmen's like, "Oh yeah, she got more like beat up than me." And then
George Lopez he's like, "Oh, you got blood on your shirt," and she's like, "Oh, that's the other girl's blood." And George is like loses his shit. He's like, "That's what I'm talking about."
Yeah. Exactly.
It reminds me of that episode.
You said within reason, so what would be like out of reason? She like commits like a felon or something.
What's that?
She commits like a felon or something. Like,
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like, obviously, if she commits some type of like brutal crime, like, I'm not gonna like, yeah, come here, let's put the body over here, kind of thing, you know, like. I'm not gonna go to jail for your dumb ass either. And I've told her this too. Like, make right
good
decisions,
make well thought decisions.
You know, but I'm gonna have her back to an extent.
That's what I hope every parent does.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, shit.
This is gonna really show maybe a generational gap. But you know who Mr. Beast is, right?
Yeah. No, you know what? I bumped into it because I was doing a lot of when I left. So with the show, right? CED Connects. The focus on the show is like people of color in the cannabis industry, and as I started like tapping into like YouTube, I started doing like obviously like research of like, all right, what's out there? How can I like make the show or the brand grow? And for some reason, like one of the episodes, and I didn't realize it was Mr. Beast right now until you guys said like what he does. I saw an episode of like his, I don't know if it was like 100 million or 1 million followers where they were gonna win an island.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, what? So I started. It was like this is like one of these like 1 or 2 in the morning. Things that I'm watching in the middle of the night and
off an edible.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. It's crazy because that's kind of how his videos kind of capture you, though. You're like, okay, like what's this about?
Right. Yeah, and
especially because he's giving away like a shit ton of money sometimes.
It's like ridiculous. It's like giving $1 million to like the first person who like says hi to me or something. It's like insane. He did one. I remember one of them that really like got me was I think he went to like a Target. And he told people like, hey, like I have a case with $10,000. You can either take the case for $10,000 or give a random person in the store $20,000. And like 3 people took the 10K, and then the 4th guy, he was like, you know what? Sure, give it to somebody else. And he's like, all right, you can pick it. And he picked this like random chick, and she was like struggling financially. She started crying, and she's like, thank you so much for like the 20,000. And then Mr. B surprised the guy. He's like, because you gave her 20,000, I'm matching it and I'm giving you 20,000 too.
Damn.
So, yeah, you know, so with those types of videos, I'm always walking around Target like looking
for him.
Yeah, who's gonna offer me money?
No, really. I always think like I'm ready to just run into him, because he said his life goal is to give away all the money he ever gets. Is to just give it all away to people. But
so the thing with, I guess, Mr. Beast going on right now is, I don't know if you heard, so talking about like his videos. So he basically 1,000 people. So the video is called 1,000 People See for the First Time. So basically he kind of like, I say he cured the blind.
Yeah.
So but he's been getting a lot of hate or like a lot of heat because of like he has like a philanthropy, right? It is, or like a business that he has, and people are saying like
it's his YouTube channel.
Yeah,
it's his YouTube channel.
So basically, it's like what you'd expect, right? In the video, Mr. Beast, it's a ridiculous title, and you're like, no way, but he actually does it. So he paid for the surgery. It's like what got people upset. I'll go into is that like it's a pretty cheap surgery. Like it's not like considered like, you know, world-ending surgery. But for these people, it obviously was expensive. So he paid for 1,000 people to get this surgery, and it cured their, I think, cataracts, right? Well, I don't know what it was, but they couldn't see.
Sure.
And people were upset, and they were calling him out, saying that he's like perpetuating this like notion, right, that like that people should rely on the kindness of the rich instead of what the government should be doing. That since that surgery is so cheap and so it fixed their issue so easily, the government should be doing that. And then
So who are they upset with, him or the government?
I guess
him. It seems like it's more targeted towards him. That like he didn't. Some people accuse him of like he didn't care the blind people out of the goodness of his heart. He cared them for like views and then monetization and like,
because they're saying that he also has like his philanthropy or like his charity to kind of avoid tax and all that.
Yeah, they say it's like a tax scheme.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
It's like a what is it? Like a nonprofit
yeah.
that he's creating so that he can avoid like all this like taxation and all.
Well, what do you guys think? Do you guys think the?
I mean, that's
the
like every
criticism-
other big business. Big businesses do that, right? Big
Yeah.
businesses have opened up multiple types of accounts to
Mhm.
get away
Yeah.
from taxations
Yeah.
and things of that nature.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that happens everywhere.
Yeah.
I
Well,
think.
because then he went on Twitter, right? And he put Twitter rich with this is what Twitter says, right? Twitter people say like rich people should help others with their money. Him, it says me, right? It says Mr. Beast. Okay, I'll use my money to help people, and I promise to give away all my money before I die, every single penny. And then Twitter again, Mr. Beast is bad. So it's like there's like no for him. He's like kind of like there's no winning, right? Like
Yeah.
I said I'm gonna do it, but then you guys are over here like not liking what I'm doing, right?
Right.
Um,
I remember back then, like back, I don't know how many years ago this was, but there was this like craze of someone, and I don't know if they ever found out who it was, that would put like money in random locations.
Oh yeah.
Like I remember, like at the beach or at different parks, and he would hide it, and there were like massive amounts of people going out to like look for this money, and no one had a problem with that.
Mhm.
But I
Yeah.
guess because it's
Yeah.
an anonymous person.
Yeah.
I think
That's what people say about Mr. Beast is that they give a criticism that he basically makes poor people dance for his money. That's like the criticism
people
that yeah.
I can see that.
Yes.
I mean, I
But
can see
I
that.
don't know. to
Dance,
me-
monkey, dance.
Yeah, exactly. But it's weird. It's weird because I'm like, but he's still giving money to people who need money. He's still curing people who are blind. Like,
I think it's just people mad
It-
that they didn't get the money.
yeah, because it's not like because I know people were saying
Yeah.
like it sucks that he had to do this, but he didn't have to do it. He chose to do it,
Right.
and that's where I feel like I don't understand the criticism as much.
No, yeah, I agree with the criticism that like people shouldn't rely on the rich to fix their problems. I wholeheartedly agree with that. I agree that the government should be doing this and taking care of this.
yeah.
But Mr. B said that though, that he agrees with that too. So I'm kind of like, well, then who are you mad at then? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like people's anger is a little misplaced. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah,
Well, it's kind of like how he was like, are they mad at him or are they mad at the government? And
The
it's
system.
like the system, right? It's
Yeah.
like they should be kind of mad at the system that, like how you said, like this is a procedure that isn't that so expensive, but you know, for people's circumstances, it's like they can't afford it, you know,
Yeah.
and it's like the government should come in and like help, but you know, sometimes it's hard for all that.
you know what's funny? And I told my sister this. So for a while now, this isn't a low key. So now it's time. I usually like talking about. It's like a conspiracy, you could call it, or you can call it like a. I don't know, like a weird thought, but for a long time, people have said that Mr. Beast is like a sign of like
Antichrist?
revelations. Yeah. The Antichrist, like the sign of the times ending. Because in the Bible, it says like people will be marked by the beast.
And
His
Mr.
name
Beast.
is Mr. Beast.
Yeah.
And not only that, but it's funny because, yeah, people call him the Antichrist. And he recently literally cured the blind.
Yeah.
I think that's just fucking amazing marketing.
Yeah, right.
That's
Maybe
what
he's
that
playing
is.
on it.
That's
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah,
he
low-key,
is.
when he told me about that, I was like, I feel like he's low-key just playing on it, but I
Yeah.
don't know. Then again, I don't know, is he that
You guys
smart
don't
to
think?
do it?
You guys don't think
No,
he's the
I-
Antichrist?
And if it's not him, it's his team around him. Like obviously,
yeah.
he's not doing this by himself anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, he has
For
a
sure.
team of people
Yeah.
that are obviously coming up with ideas as well for him to
Yeah.
do.
Mhm.
So I'm sure he has a team of
Yeah.
primos there that coming up with these ideas too. You know.
Yeah, for sure. I thought that was funny though when you mentioned it. I was like, I don't know, but I guess.
The mark of the beast is Mr. Beast.
Yeah, and he's the Antichrist because you see, just like Jesus, he cured the blind, so he's trying to trick you to be one of his followers,
Yeah.
and that's why he's so popular and he's so big. I don't know, it's kind of funny because it's like,
It is funny.
if it isn't planned, if they didn't plan it,
Antichrist is
what a
a
like
YouTuber.
weird
What
coincidence.
coincidence?
Yeah,
Mr. Beast, if you're out there, you need to come on this show to answer these questions.
Yeah, I know.
He probably would do that.
Yeah,
If
he's
he-
gone on a few podcasts.
Yeah.
Yeah, but people always ask him the same questions, so he gets annoyed. just about the money and stuff.
Nah, I'd ask him if he's the Antichrist.
Yeah,
Absolutely, as you should.
Are you?
That's it. Just for that segment. Just, are you the Antichrist? No. All right, cool. Thanks.
That's
it.
That's all I wanted to know.
That's it. All right, cool.
You tell me, right? You know?
Right.
Yeah.
That's wild though.
No, I mean, I don't know. I was never too big of like a Mr. Beast guy, just because I didn't really know about him until like I had to know about him, you know, until like I saw he cures the blind. And stuff. But like, what is it that Mr. Beast burger he does? I just recently learned about what that is. It's like,
Oh yeah.
it's not like a place. It's like anybody can do it. It's supposed to help small businesses.
Yeah.
Like it was
What's it called?
Mr. Beast burger. You can
Mr. Beast
So what it
Burger?
is basically it's like Uber Eats, or have you ever ordered Uber Eats or
Uber Eats?
Yeah.
What's that?
All right, well, you know when you go on and you see the little like restaurant, so you see Mr. Beast Burger, right? And you go on there, you see their menu, you're like, oh, I want a burger. So you get a burger. It's not an actual place. So what it'll alert all the like mom and pop restaurants around that there's an order for a burger, and any of them that are available will then take the order and make the burger, and the person will order from them, and then the people who are in the mom and pop shop, they get all the revenue from it. So it's literally just made so that people eat at like the lesser known like restaurant places. That's why it's like, bro, he's the Antichrist. You see, he's helping the poor.
Look at Robin Hood over here. Dang.
I'm telling you,
Damn.
I'm
I
starting
didn't
to be a
know
little
about that.
sus, right?
I don't know about that.
There's
That's
a lot of
crazy.
good mom and pop shops so out there.
No, yeah,
Oh,
there
yeah,
is.
yeah.
A ton of
But
them
like
that people
at
don't know
face,
about.
I don't know if there's like a conspiracy. I'm sure there's probably like, if this is a TikTok, somebody will stitch it and be like, actually, you know,
Yeah.
it's whatever. But at face value, that sounds very kind.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
For
Because
sure.
I think he did it specifically during the pandemic, right?
Yeah.
a bunch of mom and pops were closing because obviously they couldn't keep up with like McDonald's and stuff when everything was closing. So he used the popularity of Mr. Beast Burger to help keep them afloat.
Yeah.
And that sounds, I don't know, that sounds pretty cool, I guess.
Isn't it funny that like people are so like caught off guard by kindness that
Yeah.
people start like
Throwing
gaining
them.
these
I don't know.
conspiracies?
I think it kind of comes more from like that Elon Musk kind of vein of like you know,
What do you mean?
like where people kind of say, oh, Elon Musk, he's like Tony Stark, he's a saint, you know. But with like a lot of the stuff that he actually does is kind of like sketchy. Like like with the Boring Company, right? Where everybody's like, "Oh my God, he's a saint," you know.
He's pushing us forward.
He's fixing you know,
Transportation.
traffic, but in reality, he just kind of didn't like the idea of public transportation.
yeah. Did you know that, Denny?
No.
That Elon Musk started his like. Did you know about his underground tunnels? That he
Oh, yeah. I
Yeah.
know about the underground stuff going on.
There was like a leaked audio of him saying that one of the reasons he started it is because he doesn't like public transportation. He thinks that it's like dehumanizing to have people in like buses and subways, and a lot of
But
people give him-
subways are underground.
yeah, but they think it's dehumanizing to have like people grouped up like that, like multiple people in the same like cart instead of just of driving your own car, you know. So yeah, I get it. People probably kind of assume it's the same way. Like Elon Musk is Tony Stark, and what Mr. Beast is like Batman.
No, but I again though, like I get that though, where people are like, people shouldn't rely on like billionaires because then they don't hold the government accountable to like,
Yeah.
because that's true. The government should be paying for that kind of stuff, you know.
Yeah.
If it's such a like a cheap and easy
But-
service, right?
These people that are obtaining like whatever it is that Mr. Beast is giving, they're not relying on his kind gesture. They're random ass people that just happen to be at the right place at the right time.
No, yeah.
So that idea of like getting pissed off at him, or like they're not asking shit from him.
Yeah.
yeah,
People were just pissed off because it wasn't them who got the
got-
10,000.
Right.
You know, it wasn't them who got chosen
Yeah.
to get cured.
Walk around like this at Target.
Walk around.
Start walking around, looking around.
I'm just go to Target now.
Yeah, let's go to Target.
Yeah, I mean, you should see it. You should try his methods. You should go around giving away like your weed and seeing like if it'll blow you up. Like
You know what? I definitely
he might be
subscribe to my
too.
channel. Here's the pack.
There you go.
Are you subscribed to
put everything.
And then
Is
So
that-
like all your ads and everything on the labels.
Subscribe here.
Yeah, like, are you subscribed to Set Connects? Say no, don't give it to them. If they,
You know what? I've been. Yeah, no, you're not fine. I've been thinking about like doing that now that I have like these new licenses. I've been thinking of like maybe hosting like a subscription party. Like subscribe to, if you're not subscribed to YouTube, you can't come in.
Oh wow!
So or at the door, subscribe and you can come on in to the party and you can
get a
get
10% off.
free weed.
Oh,
Free weed.
Wow.
I don't know. I'm just saying.
Gosh,
He's
like,
doing
edit that out. Edit that out.
Maybe if you subscribe, maybe.
Yeah.
There you go.
Like,
Um,
since we're on the topic of weed again, and not to be a downer, but it is officially Black History Month. This episode's probably just a little bit later. Wait, Black History Month is just the end of the month, right?
Yeah, it's the whole month.
It's the whole month.
Oh, it's the whole month.
Yeah.
Where did I get
Black
that idea
History
from?
end of the month.
I thought it was the last 14 days of the month.
They
No, I
only
think
get
it's the whole
one
month. It
week.
started since
No?
yesterday.
Where'd you get that
basically.
from?
I don't know. I swear I saw something. Anyways, so I wanted to bring up Ben and Jerry's usually post this like every year. It's called their Let's Be Blunt like thing. So it says 90% of executives at the largest cannabis companies are white, and there's only 7% of them that are actually black. The racial disparities don't end there. Black people are 264 times more likely to be arrested for cannabis possession than white people, even though they use similar rates. Even where cannabis is legal, black people are still arrested more often than white people for possession. So the reason I wanted to bring it up is because you work all like in that industry.
Yeah.
So I wanted to know like how does like that reflect into like the business side? Like, do you feel like you see a lot of POCs in the business side?
Not at all. Just like you said, it's what 7% or 10% are of POs. 90% is white,
Yeah.
which leaves 10%. 7 of those are black, which leaves the 3% of others. And like I mentioned to you guys before, me being a Latino license owner, we're far and few between that 3%. Like I want to say we're probably like 1.5, if that. You know what I mean? So it's you don't see it as much, and it comes with lack of funding, lack of of capital to like keep business afloat, keep maybe marketing dollars. It's already hard enough to be able to market cannabis in general, to like know of products out there. So it's hard to find who are the black owned brands or the POC brands just on that front. So working with like other branding or like trying to figure out different spots, at least here in LA, I can tell you that some of the black owned spots that I'm aware of is Gorilla RX. They're on Crenshaw Boulevard. They're actually owned by 2 black women, Big Kika, and I can't think of her name. I think it's Kika too. But they have a shop there. Josephine and Billy's is also a black owned dispensary, also owned by 2 black women, Whitney Beatty and Ebony Anderson, and they're off of Normandy and Western, I believe. And they're funded by the parent company, Jay-Z has some has like a stake in that as well. Then see, there's Ball Family Farms, who is a black owned licensed company. There's a few others out there, like 40 Ton. They're also black owned as well. And they were also criminalized as well. They did time. I want to say one of them, Corvain Cooper, who is one of the CEOs, he was serving a life term.
Really?
Yeah, and then he like they gave him clemency and he got out, and so that's their mission, is to like, shed light on all the folks that are still being criminalized now, and they're advocating to be able to like get these people out, out into society and be able to prosper off this plant that everyone else is now making money on, and they're in there for that. And it trips me out too, because there's like, as a distributor myself now, I'm sometimes driving with weight on me, and I'm driving past these prisons as I'm driving through California, and like, just to think that there's people in there right now with that we're doing probably the same thing that I'm doing right now, and I'm doing this all willy-nilly, and there's people in there locked up for the same exact thing that I'm doing right now.
Yeah.
And so, like, those folks need to be recognized, and, like, we need to figure out ways to, like, get them out somehow.
Yeah. Or do you guys, because I know there's, at least in the weed realm, I assume it's the industry, like you're the business side, the research side, and then probably the political side. Do the three of you ever like convene or
yeah,
or talk to each other?
you need to, especially as on the legal side of things. Like, there has to be a lot of political conversations and political talks and fight to be able to just maintain and to be able to be in business. There's right now, like, there's high tax rates on the business side of things, and in order to change that, you need to go to City Hall. You need to start advocating to, like, lower taxes, lower tax rates. Because although it is legal in the state of California, right, at the end of the day, it's the city that has a final say whether cannabis business can be conducted or not. That's why you don't see many dispensaries in like, certain cities. And certain businesses can only be conducted in different cities just based off of that, right? So like, local municipalities have final say as to, like, whether or not you can actually conduct cannabis business. There's some cities that just don't allow it at all, right? And so you can't, like, you won't see any businesses there. You won't see dispensaries in, like, Culver City or in, like, there's tons of cities out there that don't have dispensaries, and that's because that city has final say. And so if folks wanted to have safe access to the plant, we need to advocate for that. And in order to do that is you need to go to City Hall. You need to go and have those political call to actions to be able to have access to the plant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How long do you, because I know one of the biggest, like, rumors or, like, murmurs that's going around with, like, the Biden administration is that before Biden leaves office, he's going to try to make weed federally legal.
Not going to happen.
You don't think so? This is an old one that you talked about on the old show, but how long do you think until weed does become federally legal?
I think it's going to be some time because of those small, like, just in general, like, the small things of, like, the municipalities have final say, right? There's every state that becomes legalized has different rules, has different regulations as to how they operate per state. Tax rates are also different in every state, right? And so they need to figure all that shit out and, like, how that's gonna come to be before they open up the floodgates. Because in that case, like, it's just gonna be, I can only see it's gonna be a headache, right? And so,
what's, like, an estimate, like a time estimate? If you had to put an estimate, how long?
Another, like, 8 to 10 years.
8 to 10 years?
Yeah.
Damn.
Well, because it's like, is it the reason that they think he's gonna legalize it? Because, like, people want to kind of, like, capitalize on it.
Well, they say that every president kind of has, like, their big, like, policy change that kind of, like, solidifies their career. With Obama, he legalized gay marriage. With Biden, that's the rumor that he's going to do it with. He's going to legalize weed. That's mainly the reason why people say it. It's like a rumor. It's not like they've officially have said it. But I think Biden has kind of talked about it sometimes, right? I think in speeches.
I know there was something that came out, like, about, I can't even think of what it was, but I know it happened, like, around Cinco de Mayo when he came out with, like, something that has to do with, maybe we could look it up and edit this part out, but but I know there was something that was put out there about, like, criminalization
Mm-hmm.
with the plant.
Yeah, I
Or
think
like,
Kamala Harris.
or like big
yeah.
offenses or whatever.
Yeah.
The problem with that issue is that the people that are already in there aren't even in there for the crimes that they said they're gonna stop to like commit or like do. So like, although it's like one of those like false like narratives of like, yeah, we're stopping this, but they were never even stopping people for that crime that they said they're gonna stop doing, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So it's more of just like I guess a PR stunt in a way, right?
Feels like it, yeah, like a
Yeah.
political PR.
Yeah.
Probably for a re-election.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably. Yeah.
I had a question for you. I don't.
Sure.
There's not really anything that I've seen that has too much basis in this. I mean, we talked about it a little bit, but it's a little more based in reality, I guess. But I've always felt that like I always had this like nervousness around like about some weed companies, especially when we're talking like getting federally legal and the potential of big weed, right? Of weed getting very big. Do you think that there's ever going to be, or do you think there already is, like cases where they're putting stuff in weed that's really not at all bad for you? That's not at all good for you. Well, not that it's to argue that it's good for you to begin with, but like
just like maybe like to like cut
Like
out, like maybe
pesticides?
to produce quicker.
No,
type of
for me it was
situation, or-
more like, let's say you know how they have pods, right? I would always tell them like if I always wondered if they ever put stuff in it that's like not really at all THC. It's some other compound that's really cheap to produce, and that's why they do it. But it's probably really bad for you. Because the tobacco companies used to do that, right?
Yeah.
Where they'd put stuff in it that like it produced a better, drag or whatever, and they knew it was really bad for you. It was just cheaper and it's better for sales and stuff. Do you know about that, or do you worry about that at all, or does that ever come to mind for you?
Yeah, I mean, for sure. Like, especially for myself, I'm a small company, right? Like, and we kind of like touched on a bits and pieces. I own like the distribution license and the manufacturing license, and so for me, like I can create these processes, right? I can create those pens that you're talking about, and so you in the sense of like big companies trying to cut corners to like, because that's essentially like it would be like a production decision, right? To like mass produce, to be able to like, you see it in those cases,
Yeah.
right? Like you see it in those situations. I mean, I can see it happening. Was that the question? Like, what can I see it happening?
Can you see it happening?
I can see it
too?
happening,
Like,
absolutely. But there's those testing regulations that are out there that are meant for that not to happen. So you would hope that like that these labs would catch it and stop that from happening. Because again, at the end of the day, like this was legalized medically, right? It's legalized for medical purposes. And sometimes I feel like that part gets lost in like a lot of the conversations of like, this is originally meant to like help folks medically to find an alternative towards big pharma or big medicines, pills, all that, right?
Yeah.
And so if you look at it in that sense, you would hope that that isn't going on, right? Because at the end of the day, it's
medicine,
intended
right?
for medical purposes, right? But if you're looking at it in the recreational standpoint, I can see it happening just to drive up cost and produce more sales. But as a plant, like you can only do so much to like produce the plant. Like some plants take X amount of days to produce, right? And you see that a lot in this is, that's one of the biggest problems is there's not enough right now in this industry right now. Like it's going to shit. I'm not like, prices are so low right now that
Why?
overproduction and
There's
not
just-
enough sell through, right? Like these big companies, like you said, they're coming online because they thought there's money in this industry, and so these bigger companies come in, swoop in, take over massive amounts of land, overproduce, oversaturate, and if there's too much of something and you can't sell it, what do you do to get rid of it? You got to drop the price, right? And so right now, like I'm finding products at all-time lows, and what that's doing is now it's ruining the market, right? The smaller farmers are starting to crumble and lose and have to get out of the business, because of these all-time lows. And so like it becomes a trickling effect of shit. Like I'm telling you, I can find pounds as low as $200 a pound. Like that's not even like realistically sustainable as a business.
Yeah.
When it takes maybe $300 to $400 just to produce that 1 pound.
Yeah.
When you think of labor cost, when you think of like just the time to make it, and you think of the labor cost on top of that, for you, then you have to sell that same product at $200. You're losing as a business. Like no one in business is gonna ever win in that situation. So I mean,
because I compare it to like beers and stuff, right? There's like this. There's a lot of beers out there, but there's a select few that like trump over the others, right? But if right now with weed just is like so new, it's basically as if there's like so many brands out there, and none of them are really like the forerunner, right? None of them are the front man. So I guess people are like don't really choose one or the other, right? So there's a lot of saturation. That's what you mean, right?
Same, yeah, that too. I mean, there's a ton of brands out there. Absolutely, there's a fucking crazy amount of brands. And like, I could have, if I really wanted to, like, I could have hundreds of brands under my belt. But even that, like, on a business side of things, like, doesn't really make sense for me to do, especially if I'm purchasing the flower from the same spot, like we touched on earlier. Like, now these brands are competing against themselves to try to sell the same damn product under a different name, and that then drives the cost low too, right? Because everyone's trying to undercut themselves to get into try to get onto the shelf.
Yeah.
And that's another like battle that's going on within the industry of like, how can I get this product to sell? How can the shop take my brand, especially as a new brand, or going back to POC brands that don't have the money, the black owned brands, the brown owned brands, that it's already a struggle enough to have the capital to come to market, and then no one's gonna like support them or purchase their product because of the big names, or because maybe their THC levels they didn't meet, wasn't 30%.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like all these little things that no one really thinks about or sees or hears about, and it's a trickling effect for everyone.
Yeah. Well, because you said like the licensing is already like one big process, no?
Big, long process. Like for myself, I waited a year for the manufacturing and delivery license to come through, right? And under that, like, I needed to have, in order for me to apply for the license, I needed to show the state that I have I'm on a lease of a building in order for me to apply. And the state doesn't, like, it doesn't matter how long the state takes to approve the license. As soon as I'm on just like anywhere else, right? As soon as I'm on a lease somewhere, that landlord is going to want their money on a monthly basis. And so now I need to figure out a way to conduct business, or at least pay this rent while I wait for the license to come through. But I'm not supposed to conduct illegal business, right? So how am I paying for this while I'm waiting for this? Like it's a clusterfuck, and it's it's also like an attack on the minorities that are trying to get into this business. Like, how can they really get into this industry if there's all these barriers to entry because of what the state has put into place? And a lot of it does feel like it's an attack on the minorities because they know that we don't have the money to sustain. So yeah, it's a nice gesture, like throw in like, yeah, you guys can have a piece of the license. Good luck trying to maintain. Good luck trying to
Profit.
maintain your like the retail for the year and a half, maybe 2 years, while the state, lags on signing off on the piece of paper or whatever, right? Like where other companies, sure, no problem. They have the money, they can wait, they can do whatever. They're the landlords, or that's where you'll run into like these predatory investors and things of that nature. Where like me as a minority, if I came across my license, I know I don't have the money, and this investor comes to me, this angel investor that they call, right, to help save me. And again, comes back to like the minorities, maybe not doing their due diligence, not understanding the process, not understanding business. We weren't taught this stuff growing up, right? We weren't taught to like look at contracts or look at all these little things. And so we have the license, an angel investor comes in, says, we'll help you pay, we'll provide you with the funding, not really read it. Then a year or two from now, they lose everything because they signed the paper that says, in a year from now, we're taking away your license from you. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so there's those instances that are happening all the fucking time. Mm-hmm. And it goes back to POCs and like the minorities and not being afforded or given these opportunities to even learn. And that's a systematic thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
For sure.
Do you think there should be like a limit on THC? Like, do you think there should be like a you
like alcohol?
Yeah, like alcohol. Because the only reason I bring it up is, I mean, maybe I'm misunderstanding, because I know a lot of like one of the big misunderstandings is like indica and sativa, right? But like there's a big like misunderstanding about that. But like not that long ago, like a report came out about how doctors are getting a bunch of young adults who get like psychosis or have like something goes wrong in their head because they're using weed and it might be too strong or whatever. Do you think that there should be some sort of like regulation or cap in terms of THC because of that?
I'm sure that that's probably going to be one of the things that's going to be recommended in order for like federal legalization. I'm sure that's going to be one of the things. How you regulate that would probably be through standardized testing through the labs, right? And making sure that everyone is doing it the same and actually showing the true numbers. Because honestly, like, I get it, like I touched on earlier, like growing methods has changed, right? But I don't think growing methods has changed that much drastically within 5 years.
Yeah,
because 5 years ago, no one was reaching 27% of THC.
Really?
Right? Like, you want that, if you saw that anywhere, you're like, holy shit. And now everyone is all of a sudden reaching 30%, 32%, 34%, 36%, 40s.
Yeah. I was in San Francisco.
Like,
they had one that was 51%.
Yeah, like there's, and they're probably gonna say, well, we've infused it with this, and we threw in that, and we did this, and we did that to like increase the levels, but it just again then goes back to like the consumers and the best bang for their buck type of situation. But truly, like with THC levels, like I think the biggest thing is maybe understanding more of the terpenes than the THC levels, and understanding what terpenes are within that plant and what the terpene does for you that should drive your consumption versus the THC percentage.
So you don't feel like personally you felt weed become stronger, like from your like use? No? Feels about the same as it always has?
For the most part.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a few, but that goes back to, it goes back to the terpenes. At the end of the day, realistically, it goes back to terpenes. If you look at certain strains, they grow different terpene levels, right? And if it's a terpene level that's maybe higher on, like, let's say myrcene is a more of a downer. If you're crossing these strains that are higher on myrcene, although it might have like a THC level, the reason why you feel it more heavier is because the cross of the terpene levels versus the THC count. And so it goes back to what terpenes are you consuming that's within that plant. And so learning more about that, I think, is way more valuable than looking at the THC.
And is that usually on the label?
It's not required to be on the label. At least in California. Yeah. And that goes back to, like I said earlier, about every state has different rules and regulations. Nevada, in the state of Nevada, it's required for each product to list what terpenes are listed on that particular product that you're purchasing. Yeah. And so, again, like, each state has their own regulations. And
so how do you go about it? How do you know when you're getting, like, good weed or, like you know the terpenes are good?
It goes to smell. Like, you can smell them. And so then it goes back to, like, why, you know, some folks were against legalization versus for legalization on the recreational side of things. Because on the recreational side of things, one of the other regulations are packaged. It needs to be packaged goods, right? And in order for it to be packaged goods, like, it needs to be sealed. And with that seal, now you can't smell the product. Whereas before recreational legalization, when you walked into a dispensary with your medical card, everything was open. Right? You would go in, they'd give you the jars, and you were allowed to smell. And every strain had a different smell to it. Even the ones that you have in front of you, there's 2 different strains in one of them, and one has a completely different smell than the other, right? And so those different hints of, like, terpenes or flavors that you smell, let's say like a sativa are very, like, lemony smells, right? And that limonene, and it's a limonene terpene. Therefore, like, it's an active terpene. Therefore, the sativa, which people commonly know it as a high, like an upper, right? It's because of the limonene, which is an active. Lemons, like, it brings you up.
But that's cool though. Like, now you have your own business now, your own thing going on.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's like that's one of the. With the license, I thought, like, I figured, like, how am I gonna? Is this? Oh, you're on it. No, you're good. Never mind. Like, how can I put the licenses to use with and how can I combine the show with the licenses and kind of put it all together? Because at the end of the day, cannabis, like we touched on, like, cannabis sales is already an all-time low. Realistically, for a cannabis brand to, like, really make money, you have to, like, be able to produce properly, run efficiently, and be in a ton of stores to just see money back. I knew that just because of the company that I worked for, right? And going back to that original story, like, I learned off the white man's dime, realistically. And I tell people that shit all the time. Like, I learned off the white man's dime. I got to where I got to, and now I was blessed to, like, have the license and get the license, obtain a license for myself. And my thing is, like, I want to be able to help out other smaller brands, POC brands. And that's how really the show got started, right? The show got started off of, like, fucking education, right? It was an educational based platform where we wanted to create the TED Talk of cannabis for while legalization was starting to happen. We wanted to be able to educate folks, educate our communities. And so we would host, like, monthly workshops. We would invite people to, like, we would invite brands or company owners to come in and like, speak about their products. And we were going to continue that until COVID happened. And when COVID happened, that's when we transitioned to podcasting. And I had no idea. Like, honestly, I figured, like, I figured it would be a lot easier than throwing a show, honestly. But we all know that's not true, right? Yeah. I had to learn the whole audio thing and you know, kind of take off from there. But the premise of the show is really to create a platform for people of color in the industry to be able to educate and empower our communities through at first it was through storytelling and experiences because it was just an audio show, right? But now that we're visual, and like the real focus is representation, and like I want people to see us in this conversation, and like if people see us having these conversations, that might make them more lenient to like want to maybe learn a little more about the plant. We purposefully don't smoke on the show as well because I want to eliminate that stigma as well. And so that's like the premise of the show of like, I only want to highlight POC in the show. That's it. Like, I don't care what anyone says. If you're white, like, I'm not going to have you on the show. Point blank. Not. You know, but I'm sure there's people that work within your company that are POC and maybe have, you know, a higher role. Or if they don't, I still want to hear your story and what are you experiencing within the company as a POC person, right? And so getting that story being told, cool, we can do that, right? So with that all in mind, and now with the licenses and understanding that with the cannabis company, like I got to have this big ass operation to even like think of making money. I knew that's going to be hard in general. So I figured, like, how can I combine my licenses with the show? And I thought of, like, well, shit, like, marketing and advertising already is a struggle, right? So I can utilize other platforms like podcasting, like this and that, right? And so that kind of, like, developed into, like, I can make money off of that. Like, charge brands money to, like, be able to advertise and to be able to, you know, do some marketing through the show. And that's an outlet for brands to be able to like showcase their brands, right? Or with, you guys see the packaging there, right? Like with the license that I have, I'm able to develop brands. I'm able to produce brands legally and compliantly. So why not throw in on the, like the show logo on there? And one of the ideas that I have is we're going to interview shops, maybe the shop owners, right? And we interview a shop owner, let's say 64 and Hope. Shout out to you, Robin. Black owned as well. And we'll interview her, or Asia, which is she's another 64 and Hope shop owner, black as well. We'll interview her, and then I'll add the QR code to the interview on my packaging, and we'll sell said Connect's packaging at 64 and Hope, so that when the consumer purchases this flower, they could then click the link or scan the link. They can now learn more about the store that they just purchased from, right? They have that story behind where they're going. They have the story being told. And then for us, we're getting the views, we're getting the likes, we're getting that, you know, that visibility as a show, and we can then monetize on the back end through monetization of like podcasting and YouTube and all of that front. And that long-term game for me is like the end play for the show. And then from there, like once we have the visibility, once we have the people know who we are and what we're about and what I'm trying to like accomplish, I can then replicate this at every state that's, you know, legally recreationally opening up, right? I can go to New York, I can go to Nevada, I can go to Florida, go to all these states, Missouri, like all these states, Michigan, that are opening up and open up the same concept of just focusing on people of color and the branding and the people that are in the industry, and continue to just share their story under the brand and just blow it up that way. Like that's the ultimate like big end goal that I have for the brand and for the show. Cool. And that's the only way that I could think of that makes the most sense to be able to utilize my license and utilize all the different resources that I have to be able to accomplish that goal. How am I going to do that shit? I have no fucking clue. Right? Because it's just me and my video editor. Shout out to you, Steven, and Oh That's Filthy, because he's been helping me out tremendously with like the production, and it's changed a lot, and it looks like, if you guys haven't seen it,
It's good.
Yeah.
It looks really
like,
high quality.
It's and that's the purpose, right? Because like I said, with that end goal in mind, like that being able to like have people pay for the branding, I gotta show visibility.
Yeah.
And if there's no visibility, like there's nothing behind it. So it's like that catch-22 for me is like, fuck, like how do I get people to pay for like ad space if I don't have the views?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For
Right?
Sure.
But how can I get the views if the video looks like shit? You know what I mean? So it's like one of those, like all those things combined, I'm just like, damn. But it'll get there eventually.
For sure.
You know what I kind of wanted to bring up was this is something I thought about recently, especially with you, because you're saying you only support POCs. What do you think about that argument about how people say that it's sometimes wrong? Like, let's say you support a Mexican business just because it's being run by Mexicans, right? Or a black business just because it's being run by black people. What do you think about that argument about people say that that's wrong because you should choose quality of the product that they're putting out rather than who they are as people?
Yeah, and I fight that all the time. Like, am I pigeonholing myself with things like that? Like, that definitely comes through my mind. And I've even had the conversation even with my partner, like about those things. And one of the things, I guess, for us, one of the things that we're starting to do is just maybe do a little more research about the brand, and like really like, and if there is something like a lack of production or a lack of that, bring it up on the show and talk about it and question them on it.
Yeah.
And see if we can maybe then try to develop that production, or how, like, bring it up, make it known, like let it be known that we know about it, and elevate that conversation.
So you don't think it's important to support them? It like no matter what, just because it's like they're POCs and they come from obviously like a harder background than, like you said, people who come from money and are white. So you don't think it's necessary to support them just because you guys share the same like cultural background?
Do I think it's necessary to support them?
Yeah.
Support the POCs or support the
POCs?
Yeah, I think it's important to support them. Yeah, like whether it's through like just shining a light of like all the good shit they're doing, or giving them constructive criticism as to like how can you be better.
I get you.
Either way, we're highlighting them in some way, shape, or form, and we're leaving them with something better.
That's true. Yeah.
Somehow.
Can you explain what terpenes are? Like, I don't really know what they are. Like, what actually are they? Like, what do they do? Like, because
it's like a chemical compound. There are chemical compounds that are found in everything, even including regular foods that you eat.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Really?
Absolutely. Yeah, like the lemon, like I said, limonene is also found in limes. There's limonene. There's another linalool is found in lavender. Linalool is a terpene that relaxes you as well. And so they're all found in like different foods that we consume on a daily basis. Yeah. And so they're chemical compounds that have different like actions that it produces in the body. And in the body, like it's part of like the endocannabinoid system, and everyone has one. Like in your body, you have an endocannabinoid system. And so the chemical compounds on the plant releases these the chemicals reactions as it burns off, and that's what you're consuming, and that's going to then react within your endocannabinoid systems.
So like, if let's say somebody's having like a bad experience with like a certain strand, it could be because of the terpenes?
Absolutely.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So like, go ahead.
I just wanted to say, I don't know if this is moving on, so if you have one more thing to say, I'll let you say after this. But I've heard rumors that apparently like sativa and indica, like it doesn't really like matter, like that there's not really an actual
at this point now, because there's been so many crosses of plants and of strains, they're all essentially hybrids of each one. It's now that's why it's important to understand what terpenes are in these strains, so that you know exactly what you're consuming, like which terpene are gonna be are higher or lower on that particular strain that you're smoking, because that's truly what you're consuming is the terpenes, right? And so understanding what terpenes, what are the effects of each terpene is gonna heighten the effects that you're experiencing when you're consuming the plant in any way, shape, or form, whether you're smoking it, whether you're ingesting it. And also even that part though too, like the way you consume it is how your body like receives it, and like smoking it is different than eating it. The way your body like ingests it and takes it in through the lungs, or if it gets broken down through the enzymes of your body, like how those chemical compounds are released are different based off of those things.
Well, because it makes me think that like some people say that they can't smoke sativa because it makes them too paranoid, and they like indica instead. It makes me think that those type of things are then placebos, right? Because like you said,
no, it's not. I mean, because like we touched on earlier, like
so it's
like,
the terpenes.
it's the terpenes that like have the effects of like the paranoia is an effect, right? Or the focus, like being focused, that can be being too hyper focused can cause some type of paranoia in people.
No, that makes sense, yeah.
Right? So if you're like hyper focused on something, that can be interpreted as fuck, I'm paranoid. Why am I so focused on this?
Yeah.
It's fucking it's paranoia, and it can be viewed as that.
Yeah.
So it's really what effect are you actually feeling, and what's the interpretation that person is taking it as.
Have you ever had a bad trip on
Absolutely.
weed? Yeah.
Hell yeah. Especially on edibles. And you get it all the time. Like you get those stories with edibles.
Yeah.
Or a dab. I took a dab and yeah, we can get into those stories too.
Yeah.
Because those are a lot more like concentrated, right?
Absolutely.
Dabs?
They're concentrated because of the way that they're created. Right? Dabs, if you're taking like, so there's the concentrates of like rosin, and there's rosin, ROSIN, and then there's resin, RESIN, and both are created differently.
Yeah,
rosin is typically through frozen, like through a frozen process. You're not familiar with it?
No,
you guys
I
familiar
don't
with it?
know.
Okay.
No.
Cool. So this really feels like a classroom now.
I know.
I
He's teaching
I
us.
feel like he's such. I was laughing earlier. I started giggling because you were talking about like the compounds and all that, and I was like, bro, you sound like such like a scientist right now.
Yeah. Right, and I was
you know, like your body, how it reacts.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure like you've studied all this and like read.
Yeah, I mean, read it, listen to like different things. Absolutely.
Yeah.
You kind of have to, right? Yeah.
But you were saying.
But so the rosin and to create the concentrates for that is through a frozen process. So you freeze at time of harvest, when they harvest the plant, they'll put some and they'll freeze it automatically. They'll go ahead and they'll freeze it. And so when you freeze it, you then process it through ice and water, and you shake it it's like a washing machine, and like you're washing it out, and like through this tube, like if you look at the plant, and if it's frosty or if it's sticky, those are the trichomes. This is what they call trichomes, and that's what's being extracted out through the water and the hash. And it's the cleanest way to do it because it's only water and hash, and that's the only ingredients with the process of extracting those terpenes or extracting the trichomes, right? And so it gets pulled out and it becomes like this sandy, like it looks like wet sand. It looks like wet sand, and from that you have like this mesh that they use, and like there's different layers of mesh with like different like sizes as it comes, like kind of like seeps into. And then once that process happens, like you dry it, it with an air dryer, like I forgot what it's called, but some dryer, and you dry that process, and then from there you then reheat it, and it becomes like this oily substance, and then once that then gets dried again, it becomes the concentrate of that rosin concentrate that you see, and then that's why it's so heavily concentrated, is because you pulled every piece of that plant, like being without without the actual leaves and all that, and that's why it's so much more stronger than when you smoke it.
Is there a difference between that like type of like liquid versus the dab pens? Like, is it the same? Is a dab like that?
So when I brought up resin and rosin, there's different types of pens. There's the live resin pens, and then there's the live rosin pens. The live rosin pens are typically more expensive because of the process it takes to create that product. The resin is used through distillate oil. The distillate oil is made through processing the trimmings of the plant. So when the plant is harvested, right, it still has like all of the leafy structure around the bud, right? And so the trimmers would trim off all of the excess leaves around the bud, and that excess leaves also has some pieces of trichomes on there as well, right? And then the trimmings can also still be used, and you can use the trimmings to like make butter. You could use the trimmings to make other processes, like other things part of the plant. One of them being distillate oil. You make the distillate oil through like the trimmings and like pretty much the waste of the plant.
Yeah.
So because it's the waste of the plant, it's viewed as like, some people view it as like shit. It's the shit part of the plant, right?
Yeah.
And so you're using the distillate oil from that, and then you can add in terpenes that was extracted from other methods, right? And then you're using like the ethanol, like ethanol, like I don't know like the exact process, but I just know that the differences between rosin and resin is that one is being used through the trimmings of the distillate oils, and you can then manipulate that to make the pens. Therefore, it's a cheaper cost because the products to make it was a lot cheaper than it is for the rosin materials. But the highs are also viewed as different too.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask.
Yeah, the highs are also differently. Like when you smoke it, you can also taste the difference because of it. You can taste like the oily substance versus the rosin, where you can taste like the full plant because it came from the full plant, versus the other one's just oil and like manufactured shit.
Because you said you had dab stories, right?
Oh yeah. So the dab story. Went back to the dab story.
Yeah.
So it was at a time when fuck. Fuck. All right. I got to give you the whole context to make it all make more sense. So the night before, I went out to a bar with my partner. We went to La Cita. Have you guys been to La Cita?
Yeah, in downtown, right?
Yeah. So Thursday nights they have cumbia nights,
Oh, yeah.
right? And so that was our shit, going to cumbia nights. And this was before we had the babies, and we went out. We had too much to drink, and got pulled over. Car was left. No, car got taken. I got taken in. It was a whole thing. But I got let go. I didn't get any DUI. I was under the limit, like barely. But my car got impounded.
Yeah.
Right? So my car got impounded, and I needed to go get my car. But I didn't have funds at the time. So I asked my cousin to help me with some funds, and I'll pay him back. And he was working at a dispensary. And he was working at one of the trap dispensaries, like on on like Western shit. Shout out to you, Chris. And so I went in there. He gave me the money, and he was like, "Hey, you want to take a dab?" And I was like, "Sure." This is my first time ever taking it too. And so I'm like, "Yeah, sure, no problem." Like, what's gonna happen? What's really gonna happen? And all of a sudden, like, he pulls out this blowtorch. I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And so then he pulls out the blowtorch, and we can talk about that part too. But the blowtorch, I take the puff, and then I just start coughing like crazy.
Yeah.
And I walk out. I get into the car. I have the money. My partner is like, she's driving, and she sees a elote man across the street, and so she goes and pulls over, and she's like, "Do you want anything?" I was like, "No, I'm good." This is like literally like minutes. Like I walk out, come in the car, she busts the bitch. Within like minutes, my chest starts beating like really hard, and I start feeling it, and I'm like knocking on the window of the car. And I was like, and she comes to the window, she's like, "What?" And I was like, "I'm fucking feeling it." She was like, "What are you feeling?" I was like, "I did something." And she was like, "What did you do?" I was like, "It was a blowtorch thing." And she was like, "You took a dab?" And I was like, "Yeah." And then she was like, "Sit back." And I was like, "Fuck." And I start knocking on the window again. She closes the door. My dumb ass, like, I could have just rolled the window down. Talk to her, right? I could have just rolled the window down, but I couldn't. And it was just a bad fucking experience. It was a bad high. And like, I felt like people were talking to me. I was breathing like heavy. Like I felt the blood rushing through every piece of my veins. I thought I was seeing things. And mind you, I got the money because I needed to go get my car out of the impound, and we still needed to do that. And I'm high as shit. Like, there's no way. I'm thinking, like, how am I going to get this done? Yeah. And I still needed to pick up my daughter, my oldest daughter, from, like, her mom's house. And so, like, that experience was just...
Yeah, your dabs last a while, too.
It was a really long time. It was so bad. Like, I remember getting to the tow place, and first she goes in to, like, get the car, and they were like, he needs to come in. I was like,
damn.
I remember going in, and I remember there's like the surveillance cameras and stuff, and there's a TV there, and it's like, smile, you're on like surveillance. And I remember like just sitting there and watching that camera on TV, and I was like, I'm not being dumb. I'm not doing anything stupid. Because in my mind, my body is going all over the place, and it's just an over like sensory thing. It was just way too much for me to consume, and it was the worst. And then, cool, we get the car, everything's good. Next mission is go pick up my daughter. Now I have to drive. And so, like, I'm driving, and she's driving in the other car, and I call her, like, "Hey, am I driving straight?" She's like, "Yes, fool, just fucking drive." I was just like, all right. It was one of the worst feelings, but I think a lot of it just has to do with, like, the unknown. Like, I didn't know what to feel or what I was gonna feel, and it also just goes back to like temperature. Like, there's ways to take a dab, and temperature is the biggest one. Really? Right? Like, yeah, and so that's why there's like the pens with different temperature like rigs, because the temperature controls the amount that you're consuming as well. And with the blowtorch, you fucking obviously have no fucking clue how much you're, like, what the temperature is at when you're consuming it. Yeah. So, like, that's the worst way to fucking take a dab is with the fucking blowtorch. At least for your first time. Yeah. Right? When you don't know. But, yeah, same thing with edibles. Like, edibles is the same situation. Bad trips with edibles because you consume way too much. And, like, just like fucking alcohol, like, you can overdo it. Yeah. And when you overdo it, it's bad experience. But I think oftentimes the bad experience comes from the unknown. Comes from like not knowing what you're gonna feel next.
True.
So when you took the dab, you were just like, sure, but like you didn't know anything about dabs?
No, at the time, no. Not at all.
And since then, have you tried it again?
No.
No.
No, you're like,
No,
I'm
'cause you're
good.
like,
Not
This
yet.
one, I'll sit on this one. I've never tried dabs, but
Not
I
yet.
remember I had a bad trip on an edible. The first time I ever tried an edible, I was like 17. Like I was like becoming a senior in high school, so I thought I was the man or whatever. And it was like the summer, and one of my friends, shout out to my homie Gabriel, he's like, hey, like, remember how yesterday you were telling me like you've never tried an edible? It's like, well, I got you some, like if you're down to try it. And it was like a Saturday. I was like, I'm not doing anything, like might as well. So we took it like in front of this church. And I didn't know anything about edibles. I didn't know about the 5 milligram, 10 milligrams, anything.
Right.
So I ate half of the bag, like, and each strip I think was
Sheesh.
like 10 or 15. So in total there was like 6 strips. So I had like 3 strips of it. And I had like, I don't know, probably like 40 plus milligrams of edibles. And I totally like started tripping balls. Like I thought I was in a video game. Like I remember I looked at my friend, and he was like a polygon, like in like a PS2, like PlayStation 2 video game.
Like a Minecraft type of situation.
Yeah, exactly.
Like
Yeah. And I remember we sat down, which was like the worst idea ever, because then I just couldn't stand up anymore.
Yeah.
I just like my legs felt like they were like spaghetti. And like I started like forgetting things. So like things would happen in flashes. I just remember he asked me if I was hungry, and I said yeah. And the next day I knew I was in an Uber, like on the way to go eat. And I was so like high that I would look outside the window and I would just see fog. Like I would just see fog, even though obviously we're driving through here. There's like buildings, and every now and then I would see a building that I knew because I grew up around here, and it would come out of the fog. And then as soon as the car kept driving, it would go back into the fog. And then when I got to the restaurant, I ended up puking because it was just too much. Like I got like a sensory overload. Like I started seeing things in 3 panels. So it was like the top, the middle, and the bottom, and whatever I was looking at would be the panel that would light up. And then I was just so mind blown by the fact that I was seeing my vision in 3 different panels, that I would go up, middle, down, and then I obviously just made myself dizzy. And then that's when I told my friend, I was like, I think I need to throw up. Like I'm getting really dizzy. And I went to the restroom. It was such a nice restaurant too, and like I just completely ruined like their bathroom. And there, yeah, I just unloaded.
Have you taken edibles since?
Yeah, I've taken them
Okay.
since. Yeah, I always think about that experience though, but that was a lot. I took a lot for my first time.
That was a lot.
Yeah. What about you? Have you ever tripped out on edibles?
Yeah, same situation, just not knowing. Mine was right before watching the Star Wars movie.
Which one?
I'm not a big Star Wars fan.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you guys are, but
Not really.
I'm not. But it was the one with the little robot.
The like ball one, right?
little ball
It's probably like
robot.
7 or 8.
Bunch of
Yeah.
with the robot. There's a fucking ton of robots. In there. I'm not high right now, guys. But the little ball one, yeah.
Yeah.
I remember we went. I was with a friend of mine. We went to the Capitan Theater in Hollywood.
Oh wow, yeah.
And she had a brownie. She had a
Mhm.
brownie, and I've already had a bad trip before that. And so this was like my second time. Oh, okay, cool. This is my second time. Like, okay, I think I know what to expect. Right? This
Like
is
taking an edible?
Yeah, taking
Okay.
an edible. I think I know what to expect this time. And so I took it. And the things with edibles is like they don't hit you right away, and that's
Yeah.
when people fuck up.
Yeah.
And like I took it, and I was like, I waited 30 minutes. I'm good. Give me another one.
Damn.
So I took another bite.
Common mistake.
Yeah, and that's when it got me. It got me right as we walked in, and because there was a line. It was like a premiere, I think. I don't know what it was,
okay.
but it was like a premiere. There was a line. I took it while we were waiting in line. So by the time the movie started, like I was gone. I was already out of space. I remember sitting up. I remember
Star Wars.
yeah, I remember flashes too, just like you, like how you mentioned. Remember flashes of like me walking in circles. It's like I don't know what I was doing walking in circles. I remember flashes of me walking in circles inside like the place of where like the food is at, like the concession area. And then I remember flashes of me sitting down at the chair. I remember that when the airplane was flying, I was like
holding onto the chair.
Holding onto the chair, like, fuck. I feel like I was probably really loud, and I feel like I probably was saying fuck at the theater. I don't really know because she was also high too, so she couldn't even tell me whether I was or not. But I'm pretty sure I fucking the people next to me. I'm very sorry for the people that were next to me because I'm pretty sure like. I remember the fuck, and I remember like just waves of like the movie like being out in the sand. I've never rewatched the movie, so for me that movie was a bunch of flying, a bunch of desert, and a bunch of flying. That's it. That was it.
The end.
The end.
Credits roll.
Wow.
Yes.
No,
That's cool.
It took me a while to conquer edibles. I don't know if you've heard people say that edibles are almost like its own beast. Like it's almost like a completely different experience.
It is
than like smoking.
Yeah,
right?
it is, and just like because it's the way that it's ingested and the way it's taken into the system, it produces a different high. You were looking at me earlier with the whole dab, like you baby, like as if you're the dab queen or something.
No, I've never dabbed before. Well, I've only done it once, but it was like a kind of my friend called it like a shared dab. So she like did it. She did a little bit of it, and then I took the rest of it.
Oh, okay.
Of like the smoke, but I didn't. I've only ever done it that one time, and that was it. But I've heard like stories of like my friend was like he said that one time he actually did it and he was high for like 3 days.
I mean,
so
maybe,
he was
like
telling me
3 days.
he was telling me I don't know, but he was he was telling me that story as like my friend was preparing like the dab.
Oh shit!
And I was like, fuck, like I don't.
I'm
And me like knowing myself
days.
of like. I know my limits. Like I started smoking really late. I didn't start smoking until like my freshman year of college. So like I was pretty like late on it. And
that's not
so
even late.
I was
That's
kind of like, well, I mean compared
probably
to you,
appropriate.
yeah,
But that's probably the appropriate.
But I mean I kind of was just hearing stories and like knowing stuff about it, and like also me not knowing anything about it. When my friends wanted me to try it, I was kind of like, okay, like I'm going to know my own limits kind of thing, and I'm going to set myself. So when my friend was talking about like the dabs and stuff, I was just like, okay, like she's like, do you want to do the whole thing, or like do you want to like share it? And I was like, I'm down to share it. Which like she got the most of it, and I got like the rest of whatever was left. So I wasn't like just like super high or like stupid high. I was chilling for the most part.
Right.
But I wasn't judging you on the dabs. I was just like, okay. Like I was just really interested because like I've seen my friends do it, but I've never. It's not something that I've only seen like one friend do it, and like that's it. Like it's not something that all of my friends have.
Yeah. No, I mean I know a bunch of people and they're fully functional. Like they need to take the dab to be functional. And more power to you guys. That is not something I would do.
I just wonder if there's a difference between the like pens and those type of dabs, like the torch. But you said it's because of the heat, right?
Yeah.
That's mainly the difference because of it. Cause I don't know. There's been times where like Stizzy. There's been times where I take that and like that gives me a bad trip. Only recently though. You know how you have the Apple Watch? My Apple Watch tells me that my heart rate starts going up, and if anything, it makes me spiral even more.
Oh
where
yeah,
I'm like, oh my god!
I haven't set it all up. I just recently got this bad boy, so I don't want to set that up. I'll just hold off.
No, yeah. One time.
What about you? Have you had any trips? Have you had any
but they're
experiences?
Not funny.
Yeah.
What about the one on your birthday? The edible?
Yeah, I don't think it's funny.
I think it's funny.
Oh, when you got him the high potent.
Yeah,
edible?
for his birthday, like what, like a year or 2 years ago?
2020 when I turned 20.
So 2, 3.
Yeah,
I went
like
to this
last year.
Yeah,
No,
no.
No, in 2020.
Yeah, 2 years
so
ago.
like 2 years ago. Yeah.
I went to this shop that's like known to be kind of like a shady shop, because at the time they were the only place where I had seen that they have edibles that says like fast acting, hits you in like 20 minutes or something, and it was like 20 milligrams or something. And I was like, bro, you should try it. Like, let me know like how it takes. And you said it did hit you really fast, no?
I mean, I didn't know at the time that it was hitting me, but it was like, I didn't take it and drive. I took it because I was like, it's gonna take a while. So by the time I'm done driving, it'll hit. And while I was driving, I started like talking to myself, and I talk to myself a lot, but not like super out loud. I was just, just talking, like just chirping, and
like your brain was just leaking.
It was just, and then I got home and I was like, I think I'm like, it's starting. And it was like fun at first. Like, it was kind of like fun at first.
Right.
But then it just got like super scary because like everything, how TV has like that fuzz,
right?
That like that gray and black and white fuzz. Everything had that, and I was just like, the whole time sitting there. It must have been hours that I was just like sitting there, like staring at the wall, kind of trying to figure out if that was real.
Didn't you say you saw it like a shadow, like look at you?
Well, it was just I just kept feeling like I was seeing shit, like because obviously the fuzz already, so it looked like out of the corner of my eye there was like people like like checking in on me. So I don't know, it wasn't as fun as I thought it'd be.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I get it. I mean, sometimes it happens to me. Like with me with edible, even though I say like I take edibles, 5 milligrams is good for me. Like I only do 5 milligrams at a time. And that's more than enough. And I know that of myself now.
Yeah.
Like the other day, I took 10. And when it started to hit me, I got mad at myself. I was like, damn it, I knew this shit was going to hit me like this. And I'm like over here yelling out loud. And I was like, fuck, I'm high. I got to bring it back down, But, that's one of the benefits of like, microdosing, right? And like understanding like your body and understanding the like what you're consuming, and again going back to like medication, right? Like knowing how much to take to like get you to where you need to get to and where you want to be. That's why I personally like edibles now too, because I know where I want to get to, and edibles is one of the ways to do that. And lately I've been big on the drinks, edible drinks.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I know you mentioned them.
Yeah, for sure.
Are they any good? They taste good?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's some that are good. The one that I really enjoy, shout out to you, man. His name is Daniel. He has a marijuana brand. That's what it's called. It's marijuana. And they're drinks. And he has a tamarindo drink. He has piña, guayaba, and mandarin. And those things are so good.
Is it hard to, like, when you take... Because it's what, like a sip or something?
No, it's a bottle. It's a full bottle.
Oh, so you got to drink it all?
It's like a full bottle, and the bottle is 10 milligrams.
Oh.
The entire bottle is 10 milligrams.
Okay.
So that's, for me personally, I enjoy that because, when you ingest a gummy of 10 milligrams... You're getting the 10 milligrams all in one, one shot.
Yeah.
With the drink, you're consuming whatever you're consuming. It's what you're intaking, right? Yeah. So I'm not gonna down the whole 10 milligram bottle. I'm sipping on it.
Yeah.
So, give or take a gulp that you take, right? Like when you're sipping on a bottle, you're just sipping on it.
Yeah.
So each intake, I'm taking 2.5, let's say 2 milligrams each time. Yeah. So when I feel it like you feel just a like 2.
Like it's a little smooth.
It's just a little wave that I'm riding throughout the thing. And I'm just like sipping on it. Cool. Like I got it. Then I'll go back to it. Like when I start to feel it come down, like I'll take a sip and I'll put it like in my fridge. Just like wait.
That's cool.
Come back to it when I start feeling it come down. Take another swig, and I'm right back. Just the whole day chilling, right there. That's the way to do it. Shout out to you.
What are your favorite?
I'm gonna check it out.
Yeah, I know the most. You guys are pretty close by to Dr. Green Thumbs.
Yeah,
right down the street. I know he has his stuff there. You can find his
Ooh.
products at Dr. Green Thumbs.
Okay.
I'm for sure.
What's it called? You know what?
It's called marijuana.
I think I've seen it on your.
I've seen
on
it.
your
I
page.
posted it on the
Yeah.
page. We're actually gonna have I'm interviewing him tomorrow actually
Oh, wow.
on the show. So he'll be coming on like the new season, with like all the all these other episodes that we have going up.
That's cool.
What's your favorite thing to do when you're high? Or what are
Right.
some of the routines that you do when you're high?
Honestly, like my old ass, I have a lot of aches and pains, like real, just from life, right?
Yeah. No, I feel you.
So honestly, I take it just to like be able to relax during the day, really. If it's during the day, and then if it's like, or to help me go to sleep. Sometimes I can't sleep, and so I'll take it like maybe 30 minutes before I put the girls down to bed, so that once they go to sleep, I could then start to wind down and go to sleep. And so one of the little things that like I also like asking other parents that consume, like, how do you take it? Because some people will like glass of wine at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Oh, so my thing is fucking I'll take an edible like right before bedtime, and do that and kind of normalize that.
Yeah.
Because people don't like talking about it.
Yeah, for
because
sure.
I know some people. I go to the gym a lot, and it's like a big scene right now where a lot of people get high before they go to the gym. So either in the locker room or in the parking lot, like it smells like a lot like weed. But like for me, that's one of the things that doesn't work for me because I've tried it before, and I feel like it makes me like extra like sore. Like I feel like when I like if I'm doing like a bicep curl, I really feel like I could see like the meat on my body, and it makes me want to like I don't want to work out. I remember one time I was eating Popeyes while I was high, and I started thinking about like the factories and like where the chicken came from, and it ruined my appetite. I didn't finish my food.
Have you seen that? Have you seen the video of the pink? Pink meat? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah, so I just started thinking about all those things, and it didn't help. But I like hiking. Hiking and smoking is pretty cool.
Yeah,
I feel like I appreciate nature a lot more.
yeah, I could. Yeah, I've done that. I'll take I'll smoke like when I'm taking my long drives, like up the state. Cause California's fucking huge, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes with me, like I have relationships with a bunch of farms up north, like in like Ukiah or Mendocino or Laydenville, and those areas it takes about 6 to 8 hours just to get there. So I'm on the road just chilling, smoke while I'm going up there by myself,
Yeah.
and I'm in no rush, so
It doesn't impair your driving.
Because it's just a straight line sometimes.
Straight
no?
line.
For like 3 hours.
Yeah.
for us, just on the 5, just
Just chilling, listening to your
straight
music.
chill. Yeah, you know what? Some people think it's crazy, and maybe it's because because the kids that I have, but I'll drive in silence, like no music.
Oh, really?
Just that's my zen moment. Like I'm in quiet.
Are you thinking at least, or are you just?
No, I'm just enjoying the silence.
Almost meditating, right?
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. Like driving, and I've kind of gotten that like with traffic. Like I remember I learned like this practice of like before going home to whatever it is you're gonna go home to, like take a few minutes, take a few breathers before you step into your home, whether it's like if you have kids, whether you have like whatever like you're going into in your relationships or whatnot, or you're about to engage in a part like a high frequency activity or something after like just a quiet moment, take those few minutes before entering into a new space. And I would always use sitting in traffic here in LA as those moments for me to like just chill. So like for me, after learning that, traffic for me wasn't like a big thing anymore because that was just my way of like, all right, I'm just getting myself ready for what the fuck I'm gonna get out of, get into once I get out of this traffic.
It's like a video game. It's like the loading screen.
Yeah,
You're taking your time.
straight up.
Is that the only like therapeutic thing that you do, or do you do a lot of other things too?
I don't have time to do anything else. So yes, that's it, man. Because once I get out the car, it's go, go, go. Whether it be the business, whether it be the show, whether it be the kids, whether it be a partner, whether it be whatever role I'm about to take on before getting out of my car, is go, go, go. So that time is normally my Zen time.
That's good. I think that's a good place to sort of wrap up this episode. Danny, I want to say thank you for coming on the show. It was a good time. A lot of good talks. A lot of educational stuff that you taught me about weed. For sure going to start buying weed differently now.
You're a conscious connoisseur now.
Yeah. Especially all the THC levels. I always thought like they were like set in stone. But thanks for coming on. If you want, go ahead, plug anything you got to plug. Give a shout out to anybody you got to give a shout out to.
Shout out to your business.
Yeah, no, thank you. No, one, thank you guys for having me. Like, I love having you guys. I love watching you guys.
Thank you.
Always been a fan, so thank you.
Thank you.
I love you guys. You guys are the best. You guys make me feel young again.
I love that.
But for everyone else, you'll follow me at YouTube at CED Connects. That's CED Connects. Instagram would be CED_Connects. We just pushed out our new season that came out the 30th of this month, and so every Monday we'll have a new episode. I don't know when this episode is going to be released, but hopefully by then we'll probably be 2 or 3 episodes in. And we got some pretty good, we got a lot of great guests coming through. We have Scooby he's a owner from Butter in North Hollywood. We have some social equity owners and operators, Tamika and Jake. We have, who I mentioned, Daniel with Marijuana. You'll see him on the show pretty soon. So, yeah, thank you guys.
Yeah. And we'll see you guys next week.
Of course. Hope y'all have a great weekend. Bye.
Brandon?
Follow us.
Follow us.
I don't know. You know all the
on
socials.
TikTok and Instagram at TODO CHIDO TV.
Yeah, and all of Danny's like stuff will be in the description, so you guys will see it there.
Thanks again for watching. Thanks again to Danny for joining us. It was a great episode today.
If you're not following them, make sure you follow these guys.
Oh yeah.
Get on it.
We'll see you guys next week. All right.
See ya.
Take it
Bye.
easy.